Imagine a world where silence stretches across endless plains, where the wind carries no voices, no laughter, no footsteps but your own. The Earth, 900,000 years ago, was not the planet we know today. Skies hung heavy with shifting storms, rivers dried into cracked veins across the land, and forests withered into dust. Life clung desperately to whatever corners it could find. Now, picture this. Our entire species, every ancestor you've ever descended from, reduced to fewer than 1,300 souls. Not 1,300 villages, not 1,300 families, just 1,300 people scattered and fragile, standing against a world determined to erase them. The crackle of fire at night was their shield against predators. The taste of bitter roots, their only meal. Each sunrise was uncertain, each sunset a reminder of how close the end might be. And yet, somehow, they endured. How did a handful of humans survive when almost all others perished? What hidden refuge kept the flame of humanity alive when it should have been snuffed out? And what mystery, written in our very DNA, still whispers the story of those who refuse to vanish? The answers begin in the shadows of the ancient Earth. Step with me into a world long before cities, long before language, even long before the first sparks of civilization. The year is not measured in centuries, but in the vast sweep of 900,000 years ago. Earth itself was shifting through a violent transformation. The rhythms of the planet had changed. Ice ages that once came gently every 41,000 years now deepened into brutal cycles of 100,000. The skies were pale and heavy, carrying winds that no longer brought steady rains. Across Africa, woodlands shriveled into scrub, and scrub hardened into desert. Rivers that once cut silver paths across the land shrank into dry scars. The ground was cracked, hot, and unforgiving. Life was vanishing. Herds of great animals thinned, plants withered, and predators prowled desperately for what little remained. For early humans, survival meant scavenging roots buried deep beneath the soil, gnawing on insects, and chasing smaller, weaker prey. Fossil records from this period are almost silent. So few bones remain that scientists once called it a gap in human history. But it was no mystery. There are simply too few of us left to leave a trace. The genetic record, however, does not lie. It shows a collapse so sudden and severe that nearly 99% of our kind disappeared. Imagine it, a planet filled with silence, broken only by the crack of dry earth, the whisper of winds, and the fragile heartbeat of a species standing on the edge of extinction. And within this silence, something extraordinary was taking shape. It began with small losses. Rains that came late, rivers that ran shallow, seeds that did not sprout. At first, our ancestors waited. They moved to shaded gullies, followed the last green lines along the land, and shared what little they found. Hope was a habit. It had to be. Then the winds hardened. Seasons slipped out of rhythm. Herds changed their paths or vanished. Lions and hyenas grew thin and bold. Nights filled with eyes at the edge of the firelight. Each morning meant a new choice: stay and starve, or walk into the unknown. So they walked. Step by step, family by family, they drifted across dry plains and stony hills, pulling bitter roots from hard soil, breaking marrow from small bones with fist-sized stones. Water was a rumor. Shade was a memory. Children were carried. Elders were lifted. The line of survival narrowed to a thread. They learned to move by signs, the flight of birds, the damp breath of a cave, the taste of air before dawn. They watched other animals adapt. Gazelles leapt farther. Baboons raided at night. Crocodiles ruled the last pools. Even insects shifted with the dust. Everything alive was rewriting its rules. We did too. Hands grew practiced. Tools grew sharper, more careful. Fire was guarded like a newborn. A coal and bark could be the difference between life and death. Food was shared in circles. Eyes scanned the horizon as one. Trust became a tool. So did silence. And still hunger lingered. Diseases followed close. With fewer people, every loss was heavy. A twisted ankle, a fever, a storm at the wrong hour. The clan shrank, then shrank again. Some nights the fire cracked once, and no one answered. Yet a rhythm formed in the struggle. Move at dawn, rest at heat, search at dusk. Sleep light, speak low, listen always. It kept them alive, barely. But survival had a cost they could not see. A cost hidden not in the sky or the soil, but in their blood. Because the greatest threat wasn't only out there. It was already within. But even as the world closed its hand around them, our ancestors learned how to slip through the cracks. Desperation forced invention. Fear shaped new skills. And slowly, against all odds, adaptation became their answer. They found safety in places others overlooked. Valleys where thin streams still whispered. Caves where stone held the cool memory of water. Ridges that caught the last drops of rain. Here, the fires never fully died. They passed embers from one hearth to another, cradled in bark and ash, like carrying the sun itself through the dark. Food was no longer what they wanted, but what they could endure. Roots were dug from hard ground, pounded and roasted until bitterness gave way to life. Insects were gathered by the handful, rich in the strength their bodies could not find elsewhere. Small prey became precious. Hares, birds, even turtles. Every bite mattered. Every scrap was survival. But perhaps their greatest discovery was not in their hands, but in their hearts. They leaned on each other. They learned that a wound was not the end if someone stayed to carry you. That knowledge lost with one person could be saved if spoken, remembered, retold. Around the fire, survival became a story shared again and again, so the children would never forget where to find water, which plants would heal, and which shadows to fear. Over generations, this rhythm, care, cooperation, memory was woven into them. It sharpened their minds. It bound them together. And in the smallest of numbers, they grew strong enough to endure what no other species could. Their bodies changed. Their thoughts deepened. Their resilience was carved into bone and blood. But deep inside their cells, another change was stirring. A hidden transformation that would mark every human born after them. A shift so rare, so unlikely, that it would rewrite the destiny of our kind. The world had tested their strength. Now it would test their very design. For more than 100,000 years, humanity balanced on a knife's edge. Fewer than 1,300 souls, scattered like sparks across a darkened land. By every law of nature, they should have faded, yet they did not. Why? The answer lies not in stone tools or shifting winds, but in the quiet script of their blood. During this long night of survival, something extraordinary occurred. Two ancient chromosomes, separate since the dawn of mammals, fused into one. A genetic accident, so rare it happens once in millions of years, and yet it spread through the entire fragile band. Today we all carry it. It is known as chromosome 2. What did it mean? Some believe it was nothing more than chance. Others whisper it may have sparked deeper changes. Sharper minds, stronger connections, the first whispers of thought that reached beyond survival. A doorway opening at the very moment the species nearly closed forever. But the truth is stranger than fiction. Why then, in their weakest hour, did such a change endure? Was it coincidence or design hidden in nature's cruelty? The fossil record is silent. The Earth holds no clear answer. Only our DNA, scarred and reshaped, keeps the memory alive. Every heartbeat today carries that echo. They should not have survived. And yet, here we are. But survival was only the beginning. What came next would change the human story forever. When we look back across those distant millennia, it is not just a story of bones and dust. It is a story of us. Every face you see today, every voice you hear, carries the imprint of those who refused to vanish. Their struggle is written into our chromosomes, their endurance breathed into our every cell. Perhaps that is why humans are drawn to one another, why cooperation feels as natural as hunger, why teaching and sharing knowledge comes so instinctively. For in a time when silence ruled the world, survival depended on the circle of the fire, on voices passing wisdom from one generation to the next. And maybe that is why we still search for meaning in the stars, still build cities that shine against the dark, still cling to one another in moments of fear. We are the children of survivors, born from scarcity, shaped by loss, but also by hope. Hope that tomorrow might offer more than today. Hope that together, even the impossible can be endured. So the next time you hear laughter in a crowded street, or see lights glowing far across the night, remember this. Once, there were almost none of us. And still, against all odds, the human story continued. The question that remains is, what story will we leave behind? From the edge of extinction to the vastness of cities that glow like constellations, the human journey has always been a fragile thread stretched across time. We began as a few hundred voices in the wilderness, clinging to fire and memory, facing a world that seemed intent on erasing us. We endured famine, shifting skies, and the silence of near death, and somehow, we emerged stronger. Along the way, our very design was reshaped. Chromosomes fused, minds sharpened, and the instinct to share knowledge became our lifeline. From those 1,280 survivors came every language, every story, every heartbeat alive today. Their endurance is not locked in the past. It walks beside us still in the way we build, in the way we dream, in the way we refuse to give up. Yet the greatest mystery remains unanswered. Why did we survive when almost everything said we should not? Was it chance or something deeper, hidden in the rhythm of life itself? Perhaps the truth lies not in the soil or the stars, but in us, in the quiet strength that has carried humanity through its darkest nights. And so, the story closes where it began, with survival. A reminder that sometimes, against all odds, life does not surrender. It lingers, it adapts, it endures, until silence becomes song once more.